10 to 25 feet deep, and it's running 4 to 8 miles an hour.
Oh,
I mean, it's
that's hauling.
Moving. So, I mean, we're on a heavy back troll and in shallow stuff, which is fun. You start hooking 20 to 40 pound fish in 15 foot of water, they tend to go out and not down. So,
are you using you getting that down there with like a big jet diver?
Yeah, I use all 50-foot jet divers up here.
Okay.
The rocks are a little bit bigger, and so even when we're in 10 foot of water, we still use the big divers because they don't get snagged up like the smaller ones.
Oh yeah, good point.
So if the rocks are smaller, the smaller ones will bounce fine, but those small ones will wiggle their way down into those bigger rocks a little easier.
Yeah.
Talk to us a little bit about your color schemes on your flashers, your spinner baits, your spin fish. What colors do you like, and do you have a rhyme or reason as to why you choose those colors?
Basically, I'll start a lot first thing in the morning when it's dark. We run some glow flashers, some white flashers, that type of stuff. But the water is really clean and clear up here, so running a lot of chrome flashers is really hard to beat for the most part. You can go in with that day in and day out. This year, I've noticed a really good bite on red. We're catching a lot of fish on pretty much anything that has red on it. First thing in the mornings, we're getting stuff off pinks and whites, and then as soon as the sun hits the water, it's just red, as much red or red and copper that you can throw at them.
Interesting.
So we're downriver earlier in the season when I was fishing down there around Bonneville. I caught a lot of fish off green. That double trouble spin fish and different things was just hammering fish. Doesn't seem to be the case up here.
Interesting color contrast for sure. So let's talk about an event that happens up there every year. The King of the Reach Derby is one that's become very popular. Matter of fact, it's so popular they limit it to 75 boats. And I think I read somewhere the other day, Shane, that it actually sold out in like 10 or 15 minutes.
Wow.
Online.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
So
they were sold out in a hurry.
Are you fishing that Derby this year?
I am not.
Okay.
No, I'll be down coho fishing at that time.
Okay. But they utilize that King of the Reach Derby, and it's kind of interesting in that it's not the biggest fish weighed. The Derby winner last year over the 3-day Derby event turned in 74 fish. Because that's the goal, is to turn in as many of these fish for broodstock as they can. Is that not right?
Yep, correct.
So they end up, I think I read a statistic, Tommy, in 2019, 400 anglers collected 1,546 wild fish for the broodstock program. So they utilize recreational anglers in this Derby Series event. It's a 3-day tournament, 75 boats, maximum of 4 persons per boat, of which 2 must be holding Derby tickets. And they turn in as many fish as they can. And now they got to have some type of live box or revival box or something on board their boat. Is that not right, Shane?
Yeah. So they got to. They have a couple boats that are stationed out there in the river that have big tanks that you transport to. But yeah, you got to have some sort of aerator live system on your own boat where you can haul a fish or two and get them to those bigger boats with the tanks.
Gotcha. And the only fish that count towards your total is they have to be alive. You can't turn in dead fish.
Sure.
Right? So it's a broodstock, broodstock collection program. Seems to have really grown into an extremely popular tournament, in that I don't know of any other Derby on the series or opportunity that's out there that you find selling out in 10 or 15 minutes.
Yeah.
This is in October 23 to 25 this year. Do you know when the season up there actually closes on that stretch of the river?
Last day is the 15th. So that's I'll head home on the 16th. So they'll wait till the season's over, and they'll give those fish a week of rest, and then they'll go collect their brood.
Gotcha. So then they do that Derby, and they get a whole bunch of them fish that. Don't those wild fish actually spawn in that stretch of the Columbia, in that softer water over there?
They do, yeah. So they got there's all sorts of staging holes all the way up and down that whole system that have their own runs of fish that stage in the holes, and then they bump up to the spawning grounds above the holes. And that stretch of river is about 40 miles that has that all the way through it, big staging holes, and then big, long 5, 6, 7 mile spawning ground stretches, which is really cool to see.
Gotcha. That's impressive. Them fish are big. They're healthy, Tommy. They got a decent return this year. I would venture to say they might even put more fish in the holding pens this year after the Derby, Shane, than they did last year. 1,500 is nothing to sneeze at. That's pretty impressive. So,
yeah.
Hey, before we kick you loose here, you got any open dates coming up as you transition into your coho fishery after the middle of October?
Well, my Hanford fishery, thankfully, is all full, but we do have a few days open for coho come late October and into November, so which is also looking very good.
Yeah. Easiest way for folks to track you down, get a hold of you, and spend a day in the boat?
Oh, hop on my website, uppercolumbiaguide.com.
Okay.
Of course, you can check out Facebook and Instagram also, Upper Columbia Guide Service.
Right. Yep. Well, fantastic, man. You're doing a great job up there. Keep the pictures coming and the smiles. And sorry we didn't get an opportunity to spend any time on the water this year at fish camp. Kind of bummed out about that because we always get into the fish and have a good time. So,
we get that back around next year, right?
Hopefully, yeah. Yeah, it's always fun to call. I'll even drag Tommy up there if it doesn't conflict with elk hunting. So anyhow, all right, buddy, good to hear from you. Thanks for taking time this evening. We'll talk to you real soon.
Yep, thanks, Dwayne.
You bet. We'll see you.
Man, they're getting into some fat fish up there.
Dude, they're big.
Yeah.
I mean, they're just, and you know, that's kind of synonymous with this whole run that started performing in the lower Columbia during buoy 10. Albeit at times the fishery was difficult, but we saw a really good number of healthy, big, robust fish being pulled in. Some of the fish out there at Puget Sound, for those I could find on any given day, healthy fish. Some of the fish you guys got, you and Surdick and a handful of the other guys out of CQ, which, by the way, is fishing fantastic right now for coho, and still getting out there, getting halibut and lingcod. The fishing is...
And the fishing at Westport has completely surpassed my expectations. I would never have thought the Chinook fishing would be this good this late.
Right now.
Yeah, right now.
Continuing to go, right? Because we talked about it a couple weeks ago when they extended that opportunity 7 days a week, retention of 2 Chinook. We're like, well, yeah, they throw you a bone because there's no fish left. Well, guess what? There's still some
actually got to eat the bone this year.
Actually got to eat the bone this year. All right. Well, this next one I know a lot of folks are tuning in for. Want to actually hear the ins and outs of how this all went down. You and I have talked about this. Longtime friend of mine, friend of our families, Ron Cady, the father of Jared Cady, known to many here throughout the Northwest with Get 'em Dry Fishing Company, Get 'em Dry Jigs. Jordan and I spent a day on the Henry's Fork with Jared this last summer in June, fly fishing on the Henry's Fork with Jared. He talked about during that time we were there, a week or so prior, there was a man and woman, I believe they were in like their 60s. They were just walking, along a trail below the lake, and a sow come out of the woods and took the guy down and just knocked the crap out of him. So Ron Cady, again, friend, fisherman, hunter, been hunting this area in Idaho for years. Him and Jared have a nice house over there, West Yellowstone. They go across the border. They hunt elk for the better part of a month. They stay over there through all of September and invite folks to come hunt with them and hang out, right? They really have a great program over there. And lo and behold, and they are, as we'll talk about with Ron, they are very bear aware. Okay, this isn't their first rodeo.
Yeah.
That being said, Ron was attacked by a grizzly earlier this week. You saw the pictures up on a post he put out. You saw the pictures up on our Facebook page. We'll put the pictures up as we talk to him. Don't go anywhere. Get a hold of your friends. Tell them to sign on. Either Facebook or YouTube's up and going, Josh. Is that what I hear? Okay, I had a kid. We are on Facebook and YouTube, finally. And so this discussion is going to be well worth the wait. Thankfully, thank God, Ron is doing just fine. Scary, scary event. We're going to let him tell his story. We come back from this commercial break right here, Fish Hunt Northwest.
An Outdoor Emporium is the largest local outfitter in the Northwest since 1975, providing thousands of people affordable outdoor gear. This summer, Make your next outdoor adventure more affordable by shopping at our warehouse-style pricing. We are a local Cady dealer, offering sales, service, and repair. Located in Fife and Seattle, come visit us today. The outdoors await you.
It's easier than ever to browse homes and connect with an agent on the go with Better Homes and Gardens Real Estate's mobile app. With the app, your home search is synced across all of your devices, so you can pick up your home search anytime, anywhere. Take full advantage of an enriched, mobile-optimized map search experience. Use location services to quickly find homes near you that match your search criteria. Draw your own map boundaries to find homes in a specific area, and apply layers to view school districts, neighborhoods, zip codes, and more. The app's user-friendly design makes it easier than ever to find a home you'll love. Narrow down your search results, save your search criteria, and save your favorite homes. You can browse your saved homes in a list view that puts photos and key details like price and square footage right at your fingertips. Or check out your saved homes displayed on the map.
Ron, here we go. Hey, welcome back, Fish on Northwest. We already got the conversation going here.
Yeah, it's hard not to.
Well, we're talking hunting, and so yes, we're going to talk about Ron's bear camp, but his bear encounter. We're like, hey, you guys got an elk, and
right.
Of course, him being the hunter, the diehard hunter that he is, we start talking elk hunting. So his buddy Derek and his son Jared is there with him this evening. Ron is gracious enough to want to talk about this bear encounter. First of all, my friend, so glad when I called you the other night to find out that you were doing fine. You had just left the hospital and explained your injuries and whatnot. Let's, for all the folks that maybe didn't read your information you put out there on social media and kind of trying to wrap their head around the pictures that they've seen with your handheld GPS, the gash in your leg and the bruises on your shoulder and whatnot, let's talk a little bit about this area that you are very familiar with, where the encounter happened, and let's talk about how this thing kind of unfolded right before your and Derek's eyes.
Well, to start with, we're over the divide from West Yellowstone, but in this particular area was north of Ashton, Idaho, and it's an area we go to quite frequently. It's one of our favorite areas, and there was no big deal. We've seen bear in there, but not very many grizzlies. We see black bear probably 3 or 4 times a year. So we decided to go on one of our hunts we call it the skunk road because, of course, we saw a skunk cross the road there. And it's pretty much a backbone ridge that goes up to the main mountain. And we were just traveling along that, and we'd heard a couple bugles, nothing special, but we were kind of getting disappointed. And then we come to this area that was a little bit flatter, but it just looks like a bare area. It's strewn with a lot of deadhead logs laying on the ground. So the cycle was hike about 10 yards, step over a couple dead trees and a little bit of brush, and the sight distance is usually 5 to 30 yards. So, we were going along, but we were cow calling about every 50 yards, and we'd come about a quarter mile doing that. So we kind of think maybe this bear had us pinned or pegged and may have either been lining up to intercept us, or possibly we just happened to walk into his space, and that's another cause for a bear to attack. They'll let you come so close, they just might be sitting there.
Yeah.
But come into their space, then that's reason enough for them to come at you.
And how close were you, Ron, when that bear launched from wherever it was, whether it was bedded or just behind some brush? How far was that distance?
Well, I've been telling people about as far across as your kitchen would be.
Okay.
We estimated it was no more than about 12 feet.
Wow. And
so when that bear, we didn't really have any warning except one branch that sounded a little bit bigger than normal. And so that cracked,
and that started it off. And we glanced towards this one kind of a lone dead tree there, and a little bit of brush on the bottom, but you couldn't really see anything really there. That the bear was probably crouching down or maybe asleep, I don't know. But it came from around that tree, and as soon as it got around the tree, all I could see was this big brown blob. I hadn't really detected what it was yet. And then it took this one giant leap, and it was probably 5 feet from me, and before I even realized that's a bear's head headed my way.
Huh.
And some of this I don't even recall in the heat of the moment, but Derek kind of filled me in on some of the things I missed, but because I was kind of preoccupied. But
yeah,
it was baring its teeth and growling fiercely as it was coming at us. And so we figured the more we think about this, the more quicker it happened based on how fast bears move. But
yeah,
probably within a second and a half or something, it was at my feet.
Wow.
And, that gave me enough time. I hadn't even reached for my pepper yet. And so as soon as it arrived, it was probably 2 feet from me. It gave me a whack on the left shoulder, and that was the cause of it tore my shirt on my left shoulder. But it also gave me some lacerations from, it was a grizzly, and, they have pretty long claws. But
yeah.
So what that did inadvertently, and actually it was a big blessing, it knocked me to my right behind this smaller tree about 3 or 4 inches thick and provided some cover for my right shoulder. And so it was figured out he was trying to bear hug me coming in with both of them, both paws, but it hit this tree and it protected my right side. So right after that, it took another swing at me, which hit my thigh, which I think you have seen right then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it must have been the pointer finger claw or something, because it looked like it was the one that dug in the most. I don't know. But it scooped out a piece of flesh on my thigh about midway up, and that was my major injury with some more lacerations. And then, go ahead.
Sorry, it happened. I know it happened really fast, but what do you guys think the total event time? You think it was 5 seconds, 10 seconds? 20?
We were talking about that. It was probably 6 seconds. If it was any longer than that, I'd be surprised.
Yeah.
I mean, it was video game speed.
Yeah.
Video game speed.
Right.
Now,
I mean,
both you and Derek were able to disperse your pepper spray, your bear spray. Is that not right?
You're right. After the second swipe at me, I didn't realize it, but the bear had stood up, and I think that was the point in time when I took a peek down at my pepper spray and was going to get the safety off of it. The bear stood up, which Derek was right directly behind me, and he says, "Well, the bear, from his perspective, was probably more than a foot taller than me." And so that was the point in time when I actually got the safety off, and I sprayed, but it hit that tree that I was in behind.
Yeah.
And I quickly moved it over to my left. At that point, the bear, his mouth and jaws were, I figure, about 1 foot from my chest. So I gave him a full dose right to his nose area. And about the same time, Derek had done the same thing. But in the midst of that, before we unloaded our entire cans, he took one more swipe at me, which was right at my hip. And of course, as I think you remember the story I told you, I didn't realize it until I was in the aid car, because I hadn't taken my GPS out. That third swipe was a direct hit on my GPS.
Wow.
And,
Wow.
I have showed that photo, Ron, that you sent me initially, that GPS photo, to a handful of guys like at work who are hunters, and they all look at that and try to wrap their head around it. It's like, well, it looks like it got shot by a .22. I mean,
Yeah, it does.
yeah,
the penetration of that single claw going into that GPS just kind of gives you an idea of, how how strong and obviously how fast things like this unfold and happen right before your eyes. So after it had happened, after the bear runs off, you're either standing around the ground or you're trying to wrap your head around it. Derek and you were trying to wrap your head around it, just exactly what happened. What's your next move? I mean, who did you call, and how the series of events after your initial phone call? Kind of walk us through what happened there, and then also let's go down the road of if you had to do it over again. Did you do everything right? Is there something you could have done different? And/or when it comes to getting the notification out there for, assistance or help, what's the right phone call to make when you find yourself in this situation?
Okay, so one half step before that, directly after that, I'd asked Derek to check the wound because I didn't know if that wax on my thigh, how bad it was. It turned out not bad, but in the process, I kind of swiped my eye and realized that I was totally covered in pepper.
Oh,
no. The 2 cans blew up in my face, basically. And basically, after I rubbed my eyes without knowing it, I was blinded and couldn't open my eyes for about 25 minutes while he streamed water over my eyes. And, of course, that day Derek didn't bring his gun, and we were out of pepper. So I was laying on my gun, so I quickly gave him my 10 millimeter, and he stood watch while he was pouring water. But so after that, we decided we weren't going to go back the way we came because it was a lot of that low sight distance, and there was a road on the GPS we knew about, and we walked that about 2.5 miles, and Fish and Game actually came up, unlocked the gate, and came up the road and picked us up. And then when we got back down, there was a host of people, state police and Fish and Game and the aid cars and our hunting buddies. So that's where it kind of ended right there, and then that's where I ended up. So that's when I found my GPS blew up, but they carted me off to the hospital.
Go ahead.
And so
you hit on one of the things that I was going to ask you about, Ron. You mentioned your 10 millimeter. I actually picked up a 10 mil here not too long ago. I'll be over in Idaho, shortly chasing elk as well. And I'm curious, like, what is your thought on bear spray versus, sidearm? I mean, did that thought ever cross your mind as you were reaching for the bear spray, or can you tell us a little bit about your perspective on that?
Well, I'll always carry a handgun over here, but it's always the backup. And a lot of people, they seem like they need to have a learning curve to come to the real realization that pepper spray is really your prime defense, and it will always be mine. But that's gaining a lot of people are understanding that more and more. There was absolutely zero chance of me drawing my weapon. But in the event you empty your can, because bears do come back, then you have that option. But and depending on where you are, if you're in grizzly country and that's what you're carrying for, you really don't want a 9 mil or maybe not even a 40 caliber.
Right.
So you need something that's going to stop, and I really suggest something with a clip.
Right. 10 mils on the pretty much the lowest you would go in a semi-auto platform.
Yeah. I wouldn't, and I would never make it a revolver.
Right, because then you're down to 5 shots, maybe 6. Whereas you probably have 15 or so in that 10 mil.
Yeah, they're harder to operate, and once every shot you're realigning. With a auto, the recoil is not enough to take you off center. So you could unload 4 or 5 shots pretty quick.
Do you guys make a habit, Ron, of carrying a small first aid kit with you when you're out there hiking and hunting in the woods?
Yeah, I do,
Yeah.
And it's more for something like maybe a broadhead injury, which I had a few years back. But I was blessed with having a fireman with me, and he knew a lot. And
There's some, one thing, talk to hunters that hunt in bear country, and the bear spray, the pepper spray is always something that they make sure they have with them, strapped to their backpack, strapped to their side, ready to go. There are instances that happen with accidental deployments, or you are forced to use it and the wind shifts, blows it right in your face, incapacitates you for 20 to 30 minutes. I'm always surprised when I talk to guys that they have their first aid kit, they have their bear spray, they don't have anything to treat themselves if they have an accidental discharge or something like this that happened with your bear attack that, thank God, you could walk away from after attending your wound and whatnot. But you have nothing but water to wipe your face. They make small packets of products, Sudicon and a few others that I believe you can get over the counter in first aid kits that guys need to start thinking about. If your go-to is bear spray or pepper spray, you should have something to render aid for yourself. And I'm not just saying this to you, I'm saying this to all hunters, because it's one of those that escapes us that we don't think about, that we could become subjected to our own accidental discharge, and there we are incapacitated, especially if you're out there hunting by yourself. So pick up a product that you can wipe your eyes, wipe your mouth, wipe your face off, that's going to inert that chemical reaction of that pepper spray in your own eyes. Just food for thought.
Yeah, that's very important. On the way down, even though Derek had cleared my eyes, there was 2 or 3 times in those three miles that I accidentally put my hand up to my face, and it was almost the same thing all over again. Yeah, and you got to be really careful. You may think you're, you've wiped down, but you're not, and it can lead to other things.
Right.
Yeah. Would you, leading up to the attack, would you do anything differently? You mentioned before that you knew the area had looked like it had just been kind of pillaged by bears. I'm just curious, would you guys still play that scenario the same up to the point where the bear was on you?
Yeah, well, in that particular area, I would say 90% of the time we do carry bear spray in our hands. Sometimes when we're hiking in, we've been known to carry our bear spray with the safety off.
Okay.
So I've had a day or two to reflect on it now, and I do a lot of solo scouting and hunting, but that particular area and even on that mountain, I've come to the conclusion that I'm not going to be doing much soloing anymore.
Yeah, that makes sense.
It's a good plan. Yeah, absolutely.
So as far as doing something different, I think we did everything possible that we should have been. It was fortunate that Derek was right behind me. Usually they're 20 yards behind if they're the caller and Derek's the caller.
Yeah, right.
So, I don't know, there wasn't enough time to really have a second plan. So I think we did just about everything we could at the time, and it worked out well.
How many years have you guys been hunting that particular part of the country?
This is our 8th year.
Yeah. Yeah, you're very familiar with the terrain, the areas that you transition through to get from one hunting point to the next. I mean, it's not like you're, like I told Tommy and I told a handful of other folks, you guys are very bear aware in your surroundings and what goes on in and around those areas. So, credit to you in that regard, because you're familiar with it. You're not taking it for granted. You prepare. You are, you're more prepared than a number of folks that go into the woods, but it just goes to show you, it can happen at any moment. It can happen so quick that you have hardly any time to react. And once again, thank God you're okay. I was very relieved when I talked to you that evening to find out that the bumps and bruises that you received were just that, bumps and bruises with the one leg injury, and you're here to tell us about it. So I really appreciate the fact that you were willing to come on tonight and give us some insight as to what this all looked like and felt like for you to go through. All right. Any final thoughts before we get out of here? We've ran a little long, but it was well worth it because we wanted to make sure we got to the meat of this thing, because there are a lot of moving parts, obviously, with what you guys experienced.
Okay. Well, I'll make it quick, but there are 3 things to leave the listeners with. And it's basically, you need to have a bear plan if you're hunting in bear country, and particularly grizzly country. And some people don't know that bear spray has an expiration date on it. You should always check that. And what I do is I write the date either on the top or the bottom of the can to always be aware of it and to get it replaced. The second part is have a plan in terms of decide what your boundaries are in advance. If it's 20 yards, make it 20. If it's 30, make it 30. But get familiar with your own boundaries, because if you get a charge or attack or anything like that, you want to know what those are and have that bear run into the pepper spray when he's on his way to you. Bear can travel 20 yards in 2.1 seconds. Some of my research. And lastly, if you're in bear country, let that fact enter your mind about once an hour, and maybe carry your bear spray every once in a while to keep your mind on bears.
Yeah.
And you'll always have that in mind if you choose to hunt in bear country.
Yeah. Sounds like you make it a point not to become complacent.
Right.
And be aware of your surroundings all the time. So, well, Ron, again, appreciate you taking time tonight, buddy. Hope you guys in the next week or so find yourself with some dead elk around your feet. And you've earned it, no doubt about it. So go bag a good one and tell that kid of yours we said hello.
Okay. Thanks.
All right, buddy. Take care.
Have
we'll
a great
talk
night.
soon.
I'm with you.
Okay. So ran a little long. Ron, Cady, they live right here in Graham.
Yeah.
So again, they've been over there for 8 years hunting that terrain. They know it. He knows what he's in for. Just shows you how fast wild animals.
I hope that's a good elk area for him. I mean, if I knew grizzlies were there, I don't know that I'd be hunting that area. He was talking about, going in and intentionally carrying your bear spray.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'd want to be in that situation.
It's one other element on top of, archery hunting especially.
Yeah, right.
They're archery hunting.
Yeah.
And I've talked to Jared in the past, they're full draw waiting for an elk to step out, and all of a sudden a bear comes cruising by. I mean, it's like, okay, archery hunting elk is hard enough.
Yeah.
Right? To pull it all together and be consistent year in and year out, to pull it all together. And then you got this other predator element add to it. So
I think there's, when you think about when Ron talked about being bear aware and keeping the bear spray in your hand. I mean, I think there's a deep subject there that we don't have time to get into.
Yeah.
But it's sidearm versus bear spray. I mean, he carries both, but it was very clear that he valued the bear spray first to deter an attack. And I'm really curious about the details around that. Like, if we were to dig into the stats, is that what the stats would show?
I'd be curious to talk to a handful of other folks that walk that line as well. Their first line of defense, their second line of defense. He also made it a point to say bear spray is his first.
Yep.
But it's also because bears will come back.
Right.
And if you disperse that into the area, they're aware of that odor and discomfort. Mm-hmm. But then if they're coming back, he's grabbing his sidearm.
Right.
So, of which, I guess to have more than one option is not such a bad option.
Right.
Anyway, we ran extremely long on that part. No big deal. That was a half-hour segment. That's okay. We are going to jump out for a quick break. We come back. I'm going to dial up Nello Pacinich. He was with us last week. He's the executive director for CCA. And Tommy, we had tackled into the gill net reform rollback, as it were. We have some more questions for Nello. We're trying to gather CCA's perspective on this thing. We hope to talk to some other groups in the future as it relates to this gill net reform. Also plan to invite some actual gill net fishermen on, if they would be so inclined to talk about.
That would be really good.
Exactly how we arrive here. What's their stance on it? Why did we end up back here with gill nets back in the main stem? Detrimental to the fishery, or, in some regards, folks would advocate that it helps the fishery. So there's two sides to this thing. Mm-hmm. It's a huge topic, trying to work towards conservation on all levels in our salmon recovery. This is one more cog in the wheel, so to speak, and there's people that are weighing in. So Nello is gracious enough. I'm sure he's waiting for me to call him. We have a number of questions. Again, this is that educational process to help you all understand there are multiple sides to this thing, and we need to try to understand, as far as the decisions made at the commission level, how it affects our fisheries. The decisions made at the commission level, do they have a say in the outcome in management of our fisheries? And ultimately, how about those folks? How do they get there? Who ultimately puts them there? Who has a say? And do I dare say we have a governor race coming up? Just things to think about as you weigh this all out.
Yeah.
I think politics doesn't weigh in on our fisheries and our hunting opportunities. Stick around. We'll get Nello Pasenich on the phone when we come back after this break right here on Fish Hunt Northwest.
A Northwest favorite for almost 40 years, Arima boats are manufactured with pride right here in Bremerton, Washington. Arima Boats offers all of our boats with Honda outboard packages so that you can take full advantage of the reliability and 5-year top-to-prop warranty from your Honda outboard. With literally thousands of Arima boats on the water throughout the Pacific Northwest, Arima boats are a proven hull design that offers incredible fuel economy and all of the amenities that a serious angler is looking for. All Arima boats are built without any structural wood materials. That is why we back our boats with a lifetime warranty. All of our Arima boats are designed to maximize deck space while also providing ample seating. Contact us today at Arima Boats for all your boating needs and let us help you get out on the water.
Hey, welcome back, Fish Hunt Northwest, Winning on Tommy Donlan. We're still here. Yes, we got more to talk about. It was hard to pull away from the bear story, Tommy.
Yeah.
You being one that's going to enter into the Idaho woods here in the very near future.
Absolutely. I needed to hear that.
But you're not in very berry country as much as he is.
Not as much,
right?
No.
Yeah. But they do exist. They do exist.
They do.
So, anyway, our next guest lined up, as mentioned before the break, joined us last week, Nello Pasenich, Executive Director of CCA Washington. And Nello, thanks for taking time out this evening to jump back on here and try to put this to rest as we try to pull back the understanding in the position of CCA Washington and where you folks landed with this outcome and this decision for the commission or from the commission. So, again, I just want to say thanks for joining us tonight.
Yeah, Dwayne, you're welcome. Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. So last week we kind of talked about the fishery, the different options. It was went on record with McIsaac went on record describing gill nets as a bridge to alternative selection in the future. And I had posted that question to you to say, for crying out loud, the last 7 years seems to me would have built a bridge of opportunity. But as we kind of discussed, there was very little to no effort in finding alternative gear selection. There was very little to no effort in gear buyback options from the state to the gill netters. Those parts of the program, which were then pushed out there, I believe, from Kehoe, it may have been McIsaac to say, there's parts of this program that were complete and utter failure, and they leaned on those to show or demonstrate failure of the overall plan. So I can't agree with that position wholeheartedly to say it's a failure when you don't put any effort into it. But, I want to back up and start with McIsaac and Kehoe, their long-standing position on gillnet in the gillnet reform when it was first rolled out in 2013. I would go as far as to say as they were nowhere in favor of it back then, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, well, you bring up an interesting point. Neither Kehoe nor McIsaac were on the commission back then at the time.
Gotcha.
In fact,
that makes sense. Okay.
The only two commissioners that were around were Smith, and Carpenter, and of course both of them voted no.
Right. Yeah. Very good point. So the history, I guess, then. with McIsaac and Kehoe, though they have gone on record multiple times saying they are, they definitely support commercial harvest and gill net. And don't get me wrong, Tommy and I have had this discussion quite a bit, and I've stated it on the show previously. Even with Barnum, we've had a discussion. Look, there is a need for commercial harvest. You can never get away from commercial harvest. It's part of the process and part of the those that get a piece of the pie, so to speak, in the salmon recovery and salmon management. But we're, it's kind of up in the air on which camp you fall in, if you support non-selective harvest or selective harvest. And that, to me, is the key here when we try to talk about salmon recovery and conservation.
I'm trying to figure out the political piece, because what do these guys have to gain from 100 to 120 gill netters being in the lower stem of the Columbia? Like, what's the motivation in that? Mm-hmm. Such a small number of commercial fishermen, small fishery. What's the political motivation, Nello?
Yeah, that would love to know the answer to that myself. But when you talk about 100 to 120, that's mostly licenses, and a lot of them aren't even active. But between Oregon and Washington, I think that's about the right number. But what do they get out of it ultimately when you really look at it? It's a few hundred fish in some seasons, and maybe up to a few thousand fish in some other seasons, and it all depends on what runs are coming back, right? But just this last spring, I go back to just this last spring. What did the WDFW gain, or the Compact gain, by trying to get gill nets in the main stem this year for spring Chinook? When I boiled it down, when it came down to it, it amounted to just around 150 fish, plus or minus. I don't remember exactly how many. It was under 200. And if any of you were on the phone call, there was over 200 people that participated in that call. Mm-hmm. Vast majority of them were opposed to the notion of putting gill nets in the main stem in the spring for a number of reasons. And yet they went ahead, and staff recommended doing that. And, it just reminds me of this same policy change. Over the few amount of fish that you're really talking about, why cause all that consternation with, quite frankly, probably hundreds of businesses, organizations that are vested in recreational fisheries and conservation. And it's a little bit mind-boggling, Tommy. It's a good question.
So looking at the makeup of the commission, as you mentioned, McIsaac and Kehoe were not on it previously when this actual transition was put into place in 2013, the gill net reform. Right. Molly Linville and Jim Anderson, now they were just added to the commission in 2019. So when you look at the panel of 9, very junior in their time on the commission, and yet they were a strong yes in support of this thing. I'm just wondering if they're, we're talking about political posturing and how this happens, and how we have 4 persons who've been on the commission for a bit of time that were obviously a hard no, never supported transitioning back to the way it was previously. It just kind of makes you start looking at or trying to figure out the political posturing going on when you're able to, convince junior commissioners to a yes vote. I'll even go as far as to say is, if there's even possibility of, information coming down from the governor's office to say, hey, we're gonna see you to your appointment on the commission, but you got to remember we do have a vote coming up later this next year that I want you to, seriously consider. I just don't understand the gain, as Tommy said, the political gain when you want to reverse a program that's been in place for 7 years. You had mentioned 120 licenses. We know for certain that there is far less than that active participants in these gill net fisheries. The numbers are so low. I just don't understand how we arrive with gill nets back in the water after a 7-year plan, having them out of the main stem. We're still on the brink of disaster on some of these runs in the returns and the numbers, but yet here we are. Right.
And so 2 things. One, I just want to add this, just discuss the commission appointments real quick. When you look at it, I think that there's of the 9 commissioners, 2 were not appointed by Inslee. That would be Smith and Carpenter. They voted no. Mm-hmm. One of the first appointees that Inslee made, or around one of the first, was I believe Graybill. He was a no. Mm-hmm. And so you have your most recent appointees that were all yeses, and in fact, McIsaac leading the charge was a strong yes. He's a fairly recent appointee. So, yeah, I do believe that you have a point, Dwayne. I think there is some things going on with these appointees that have come onto the commission lately. There's no doubt. And when I compared the makeup of the old commission, I go back to the former chair, Miranda Wecker. And if you look at her or remember her speech that she gave on the day that the Washington Commission adopted this policy, she made a strong commitment, and this gets to another point you just made, Dwayne, a few minutes ago. She made a strong commitment to selective fisheries. And they knew there was some unknowns in the policy. Absolutely, they knew that. There was some projections on fish runs, there's projections on financial forecasts. There are several unknowns with projecting, and we know that. She knew that. But they made the commitment to selective fisheries. And we have now gone away from that commitment to selective fisheries. And for the health of our fish runs, of course, for the wild fish, that's scary. And I would even say for, future hatchery plants, that's scary, because if we're trying to control PHOS, we can't have non-selective gear in the waterways. It doesn't work.
What do we say to those who will make a stance to say that hatchery production has been cut significantly since the removal of gill nets? It lessens recreational opportunity with the removal of gill nets. We have a concern for Upper Columbia River strays due to lack of gill nets in the lower sections mopping up excess fish. And recreational harvest numbers cannot produce enough on the take to ensure that we are controlling an abundance of percentage of strays on the upper grounds. And I guess, to be fair, there's also a component of mortality associated with that. If you rely on the recreational harvest, and let's say you have concern, you're going to up your recreational quota to, say, a 2-fish daily bag limit. So your encounter rate to your wild fish goes up, which thereby your mortality rate on your wild fish would go up on your catch and release. So I know I said a lot there, but all of those weighing in have come from different groups that are on board with conservation, but not necessarily on board with all the current methods that are being practiced, and still looking for alternatives. So how do we summarize that all together?
Yeah, boy, that is a mouthful. I would just say So let me see if I can tackle these, one at a time.
Yes,
I would say the comment about hatchery production has been cut as gill nets have been come out. That is just not true. Okay. I mean, show me one that hasn't been cut because of PHOS reasons, or more than likely because of some budget constraints. But it comes down to this. What is the most selective fishery? I mean, when you just look at it, the mortality for gill nets on wild fish is higher than it is for recreational fisheries, but by a factor of, depending on when they're doing it and if they're using live boxes and tangle nets and blah blah. But by a factor of 50% to 300% more mortality. So I liken it to this, Dwayne. If you're a financial planner and I told you, look, you give me $100 and I could give you a 10% return on investment, or I could give you a 50% return on investment, what would you rather have? You would rather have the 50% return on investment. And so that's why you want to prosecute the more selective fisheries, because you get a better bang for your buck for your mortalities that are there. Now, interestingly, the argument is from McIsaac, for example, or some of these others, they're basically saying, don't look at the return on investment. Just invest the $100. So they're just saying, look, just give me the $100, and that's all you should care about. You should care about the dollars you're putting in, not the dollars you're getting back. I think that's silly. I think you want to get the best bang for your buck. I think there was one more thing, Dwayne, that I was going to, but it slipped my mind. You had one other good one in there I was going to address.
Was it the by increasing our opportunity of harvest or bag limit on recreation?
Yes. Thank you.
We increase our mortality rate.
Yes. So, the mortality rate doesn't go up, by the way. It would stay the same, 10% or 14% or whatever's assigned to that particular fishery, that particular time. But I would tell you, like, for example, in the spring, tell me a time when the recreational fishery has been fully prosecuted from beginning to end, when you didn't have to close it down in April for a number of days for the run update, right? Which is an appropriate thing to do. Okay. But when the bag limit is 2, I mean, your mortality doesn't go up at that point. You just become more effective for the recreational fleet. Mm-hmm. look at buoy 10, for example. I mean, when was the last time buoy 10 was open for 2 straight months or 6 straight weeks? I mean, we're out, weekends only. And now with this policy, we're being constrained even more. So I have yet to see, but by the way, there's no studies out there that document that. But even regardless, I have yet to see a fully prosecuted recreational fishery where they said, hey, we have this stray issue. We want to see if the recreational fishery can get out there and reduce PI. I have yet to see that happen. I would love to. I would love to test that.
So if I'm hearing you correctly in a couple points, one, we don't have anything that indicate we have a serious concern or research or information that would prove that we have concern for an abundance of strays on the spawning beds currently, as it reflects on hatchery fish. Secondly, there's nothing out there that proves that hatchery cutbacks are directly linked to the last 7 years with the removal of gill nets on the main stem Columbia.
Yeah, well, absolutely. So on the first part that you had said, according to the federal government, whether you like it or not, there is stray problems in certain rivers. I think a lot of those, Dwayne, can be solved by weirs. There's other ways to get at that. Mm-hmm. But putting gill nets in a mixed stock fishery does nothing to solve that. You have to remember, you're concerned about the percentage of hatchery fish on the spawning grounds. A gill net doesn't know if it's hatchery or wild, and it's killing them equally. The percentage is the same. So it does nothing to control the percentage. But to your second point, yes, I would say that was an accurate assessment.
Okay.
Can you tell us a little bit about the timing? So since they rolled it back, there's going to be gill nets in the main stem. What is the timing on when those gill netters are going to be fishing the river? And then you also mentioned tangle nets. Can you explain for the viewers what is a tangle net and what are the requirements in the agreement around using tangle nets for the gill netters?
Yep. So good question. So with the new policy, just overall, there's about anywhere from a 12 to 15% average reduction in recreational fishing opportunity with those fish going to now the gill net fleet. In certain seasons, it's as high as 25%. And the reason I'm talking averages and can be as high is because there's an abundance-based matrix. So in other words, the more fish that come back on these higher returns, the recreational allocation will go down and the gill net allocation will go up. So until you know exactly how many fish are coming back, Tommy, you don't know exactly what exactly what those percentages are going to be. Needless to say, you do know for certain recreational fishing opportunity goes down, gill net opportunity goes up. A tangle net is nothing more
in the
than
river, right?
In the main stem.
Yeah, it doesn't go down for all of us ocean fishers.
This does not.
We get
that's
it.
Right.
We get it before you.
That's right.
Yeah.
Nope, that's right. Good point. Yep.
Let's not forget the rest of the population.
Oh, yeah.
Yep. The ocean fisheries come before these allocation splits in the main stem. Yep. Of course, they're discussed and forecasted at north of Falcon going into that. But to your point, that is a correct statement. And then just real quick, switching a tangle net is nothing more than a small mesh gill net. It's a gill net mesh currently. They either run 8 or 9 inch mesh. A tangle net is 3.5 inch mesh, and essentially it just catches more fish. It gills smaller fish, and it entangles by the tooth, why they call it a tangle net, some of the bigger fish. But a 50-pound king is probably going to get his teeth entangled in a 9-inch mesh gill net too. So depending on the size of the fish, you could consider a 9-inch mesh a tangle net as well.
Sure.
But what they do with tangle nets, they only run them in the past. They've run them, they're doing them this fall, but have done them for spring Chinook fisheries. And at the same time they run the tangle nets, they also have these live boxes on board. And so the idea is that the fish comes entangled, it's not gilled. They put the fish in the live box to resuscitate it, and then it goes back in the river after it's been resuscitated in the live box. There's soaking requirements. In other words, you can't just keep the gill net in the water for as much as you want. There's usually 30, 45-minute soak times. So they're doing everything they possibly can because they know that these fish, once they're caught, they're going to die and suffocate. So you want to do everything you can to minimize the time the gill nets are in the water. And all they're doing there, Tommy, is just trying to lower their mortality a little bit more to, again, just justifying keeping them in the river.
Yeah.
And there are observers on the gill net boats. Is that correct?
Nope.
No.
There is not. There is no observer.
Another topic.
I'd love to do a segment on that at some point in the future.
We may have to. There's so much information available in regards to that. That is a 15-minute conversation of its own.
Yes.
Before we get done here, Nello, real quick, what are you advocating for folks, members of CCA and other folks listening in, to do? What's CCA's next move in regards to this? What are you asking of people?
Yeah, so I would say the one big thing right now is everybody get a pen. I'm going to give you a phone number. We are asking folks to call the governor because he does have the ability to ask the commission to relook at this decision that they made. If you remember, and you highlighted this actually going on your show already, he did this already with wolf management.
Right.
So he does have the ability to do this. There is a hotline where you can call the governor's office. And by the way, you can call the governor's office for any reason you want on this hotline. That I'm going to give the phone number if that's okay.
Sure, absolutely.
Yeah, it's 360-902-4111. I'll just do it one more time. 360-902-4111. There's a really long recorded message, so you just hit the 2, hit your 2 on your dial pad there, and it will send you straight to the voicemail. Somebody may pick up the phone and talk to him, but just ask the governor to reach out to the commission and ask them to have him direct the commission to, rescind whatever, however you want to phrase it, rescind that vote, relook at that policy, and limit gill nets in the main stem Columbia River.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, appreciate you taking time out the last 2 weeks now, Nello, to kind of wrap our head around this thing. It's a lengthy topic. It's got multiple layers. It's not going away anytime soon, and we're going to try to keep on top of it. We're also going to invite other persons from other groups, organizations who are walking the line of conservation and support of recreational fisheries to join us and weigh in on it. And we've also thrown it out there to speak on, let a commercial gill netter get on here on the phone or whatever and speak, and let's hear their position on it, because again, there's multiple sides to this thing, and we are ensuring that we get the message out there, the fine work you guys are doing, and where this is heading, and hopefully what the future holds, if it's a positive outcome. So again, appreciate your time.
Absolutely.
Yeah, appreciate your time tonight. We'll be in touch.
Yep. Okay. Appreciate it. Thank you, Dwayne. Thank you, Tommy.
Have a good night.
Thank you.
Okay. Thanks, guys.
Just wonder if you're going to get a goldfinch recording when you call the governor's number.
Yeah. Little bird song.
Yeah.
Huh? Maybe his wife Trudy will get on the phone and whistle sweet goldfinch into your ear. I don't know. If it's a salmon question, you're probably going to hear goldfinch, right? Okay. You know what? We've ran a little long tonight, Tommy. We got a couple options. We can either do the cooking segment, the clam recipe, or we can do the Cabo San Lucas tuna. We're not going to do both. We're gonna do one or the other. I will leave it up to you.
Oh, you're going to leave it up to me?
Yeah.
Well, I hope I don't offend Shing, but I think I'm going to go with the tuna.
Gee.
Did you see that coming?
Let me show you my shocked face. So Josh, as we roll out of here, hit that commercial break. When we come back, we'll be watching. You folks are going to enjoy this. This is a treat. Tommy and the gang down in Cabo San Lucas a couple weeks ago, getting into some real nice tuna, and they do a great job explaining it. And the reason I kind of want to show this is we're kind of laying it out. We're greasing the skids here, buddy. We're going to try to work towards putting together a group trip, head down there, spend a week or so, and take advantage of this type of opportunity. So jump out for a quick commercial break. We come back. You'll get exposed to Tommy and the boys down there in Cabo San Lucas, getting into some of these magnificent tuna. Don't go anywhere. We're back right here after this commercial break on Fish Hunt Northwest.
Defiance boats are built without any structural wood materials. That is why we back our boats with a lifetime warranty. All of our Defiance boats come standard with large fish boxes that are fully insulated so that you can ice your fish properly all day. Defiance boats feature a 21 to 22 degree dead rise at the transom and a large reverse chine for incredible handling and stability offshore. Defiance boats are foam flotation filled and unsinkable for the ultimate in safety while fishing offshore. Defiance boats feature fuel-efficient hull designs with large fuel tank capacity so that you can have maximum fuel range for making long offshore runs completely safe and affordable. All Defiance boats come standard with self-bailing decks for improved safety while at sea. Defiance Boat offers all our boats with Honda outboard packages so that you can take full advantage of the reliability and 5-year top-to-prop warranty from your Honda outboard. Defiance Boats for all your boating needs, and let us help you get out on the water.
Fish Northwest on location in Cabo San Lucas. We're getting ready to go for the big boys today. It's either all or nothing, so we're not going to go and try to catch some Dorado, try to catch some small schoolie yellowfin tuna. We're going for the big boys. We're going to go out and we're going to fly a kite, fly a yummy flyer, and we're looking for the one. Okay, there was a fish that was caught here the other day, 367 pounds. The captain mate that we're going with just a few days earlier caught one that was 202. It's game time, baby. Cabo San Lucas. Baby, here come the porpoise. Jerry, coming. All right, so we're out here. We made it to the Honda thing, and we've got a porpoise school out here that's kind of working some bait, which is a really good deal because when those porpoise get schooled up and they're pushing that bait up together, creates a little bit of competition for tuna, and we're basically the first boat on the spot. I think we got maybe another boat a couple clicks away that's working this area. But right now what we're doing is we're putting out a spread of lures, and because we're the first boat in the area, we're more likely to get bit on the lures. So we got some, different kind of mold craft and different trolling lures that we're running right now. We'll run this for a little bit, see if we can get hooked up on like a 5-rod troll spread. And then if that doesn't work, more boats show up, and then we'll switch over to live bait and we'll start slow trolling live bait, or we'll start flying the kite and get the yummy flyer up. We are on, baby, we are on! Yummy flyer. All right, so the captain put up a yummy flyer way behind the boat, trolling at about 5 or 6 knots. Had that yummy flyer skipping back there. The mate Alex was doing a really good job of painting the surface with that lure. That yummy flyer come out of the water, then back in. And then we just got hooked up. Jerry is on. There you go, Jer Bear. How big? Not so big. One gapper. Getting closer. Stay tight. There you go. Real. You're almost to the swivel, Jerry. shot. Give me about. Give me about. Thank you. Hello. 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 There you go. Yeah, bloody deck shell. Get in there, Jerry. Yes, sir. First fish of the day. Jerry's on the board. Yeah, buddy. Look over the edge. So we're trolling live bait for the big one out here in the banks. This isn't a numbers game, this is a patience game. It's an all or nothing gamble.
Fish number one, Thomas.
We're gonna try to, yes sir.
There we go.
We got another bait in the water too. We're gonna try to get.
Try to get his brother. As soon as we threw in that live bait, we were on.
Yes, sir. We almost had to sacrifice David to make it happen.
All right, here we go. We're on the money.
There we go.
Yeah.
Hey, you want
Look at that hip action. Oh yeah. Nice hip thrust and pull right there.
You bet. Been training this for a while.
Break that baby. Come on, man. Almost there.
Double hook.
All right, Paul, you're back up, my friend.
You good? You on?
I'm good.
Yep. All right, we got a double, baby. We got one on the Nomad Bat Scad, and Brett got hooked up on the short right corner, baby. We got a double on here. Brett's Hollywood to hit, though.
Mine's coming close to the boat.
Getting close over here.
Deep color on me.
Okay.
Deep color.
Yeah. Nice fish, Brett.
Yeah. All right, we got one more.
Oh, we got one más.
Uno más.
Good job, Brett. What'd you think about that?
That was awesome. We got to get this clear, though.
Look at the colors on that fish, man.
Be careful, be careful, be careful.
¿Montan?
Sí, están. ¿Es color, baby?
No. Pero quién sabe que te quepa esa la mano.
Se me resbalaba, ¿viste? Así como está. Deep color now.
Ya está roto.
Deep color. Turn me, Brett. This way. Towards them. Yeah, you can see him right down there.
Deep color. I can do it. Okay.
You sure?
Sure about that, Brett?
No, pushing up. Here, okay? Okay.
So he's going to lead her and you're going to gap.
Yep.
No pushing up. Like this.
Turn me, Jerry. There we go. Here, Brett.
There you go. Baseball bat.
Baseball bat. Oh, yeah.
Woo!
Watch out, Brett.
Oh. Ah. Thank you. You're welcome. Woo!
Nice work. Nice work, Captain. Alex, nice work, brother. Yeah, baby, that's what it's all about. Double. Brett's now on the leaderboard and in the lead. I think that one's probably about 80, 90. All right, we just got back to the dock. We had a phenomenal day with Captain David, and Alex has made 7 yellowfin tuna up to 77 pounds. This guy right here is winning the jackpot so far, but we got 2 days left. Okay, so we're gonna see how the rest of it goes. But we got him by flying a yummy flyer on the kite. We got him with live bait caballitos, and we got him trolling. I mean, pretty much the whole bag. Ran about 25 miles offshore, and there was just porpoise school everywhere. And we made those tuna compete with those porpoise. We were putting the lures right in the school. So just a phenomenal day. These guys are awesome. Benedict here in Cabo San Lucas. We're gonna be fishing with Captain Martin and Captain David again very soon after this trip.
Alrighty, well there you go.
Beautiful, man. Oh, nice work. Yeah, I'm ready to go back.
I work hard making you look good.
Hey, I appreciate it.
You, Brett, Jerry down there having a great time. Some dandy fish, man. Those are phenomenal. Beautiful. So the water, the 80-degree temps, the phenomenal food, well worth going. Huh?
We're ready to go back.
Well, so we're going to put pencil to paper, and we'll try to figure something out. I mean,
let's do it.
The more we can bring, hopefully, the better price we get.
Yep.
and we'll figure out a timeline. And you guys can hit us up via Messenger, or even just message on here before we get out of here tonight. But if you have an interest in going down to Cabo San Lucas with us and getting out there on them boats and going after some tuna and some other fish that are down there, obviously it's not just all about the tuna.
Right.
Folks may want to go do something else, right? So
they do what? I don't know. Do something else other than fishing?
Well,
I guess it is Cabo San Lucas.
It is Cabo San Lucas.
Yeah,
so
it's true.
There are things to do. It'd be a great one to bring your spouse with you and just enjoy a little getaway for 4 or 5 days. Sounds like a lot of fun. We're going to have to really take a look at this.
It's a blast. We're going to do it.
Okay.
It's part of the regular rhythm now.
It's part of the regular rhythm. Kind of like Tuna Talk with Tommy.
Yeah.
It could be even more entertaining if there's tequila involved. So, great little getaway that we will look forward to trying to wrap that into something. So, okay. We are going to take a look at the calendar and get a date. We're going to go out and shoot this bad boy, get her all dialed in, and then I look forward to connecting with my friend Ken Witt and the boys. See if we can't get out after some blacktail during modern rifle. Hey, hit us up during the week via our Facebook page. Post your successes. We got a lot of fishing coming up here over this next week as these rivers get on the drop. Matter of fact, next Thursday, October 1st, is the opener. I will definitely be fishing on a river somewhere, albeit it'll probably be a bank day just to make sure I get back here in time to actually do a show.
Yeah.
So there is that. But we want to see your successes. If you're out there getting deer or elk over the next few weeks, make sure you post those up. Give us a little story or insight as to how you acquired that animal. And then, of course, if it's your first, by all means, we'd love to hear those stories. Post up your fishing pics, as there is a lot of opportunity to take advantage of. As of late, we went down a number of them at the top of the show, Tommy. There is a lot of opportunity, especially when the water recedes and the rivers finally come open as of October 1. So lots to do and see this week. Post your questions, and we get a lot of those frequently throughout the weeks now, and we appreciate that. Go to our messenger, hit us up on Facebook. Get your friends and family. Go to our YouTube channel. Hit that subscribe button. Do us a favor, subscribe, help us drive those numbers on our YouTube channel. All right, with that, we're going to jump out of here.
Let's do it.
Before I choke on something, I have no idea what that is. My eyes are watering. Appreciate y'all tuning in tonight. We will see you next Thursday right here, 6 p.m. at Fish Out Northwest. Oh.